They're all good ideas.
Y'all ready?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to bring the meeting to order of the Sunnyvale Type A Development Corporation Board of Directors, June 13, 2018. We do have a quorum. All members are present except member Bachniak, and it's 5:08 p.m. Going to move into the public forum. Is there anybody that wants to speak in the public forum? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open and close that and move into discussion action items. Number 1, discuss and consider the May 2018 financial reporting and related financial items. Ms. Phillips.
Good evening. We will do...
I'm sorry, before you do that, our treasurer, Mr. Bachniak, is a little under the weather, but he did leave me a voicemail and said that he looked over the financials and everything looks good. So, sorry.
Okay. For the month of, actually, before I get started on this, I just wanted to let everyone know that the mid-year budget adjustments did go before the council on Monday, and the adjustments at 4A May were approved. Those numbers won't be reflected on these financials. They will be, though, on the June financials once we have an opportunity to actually update the budget. So for the month of May, we had month-to-date revenues of $887,601.65 and month-to-date expenses of $6,089.91, bringing our year-to-date revenues to $1,159,667.95 and our year-to-date expenses to $105,437.21. Sales tax recorded year-to-date is $259,338, and which reflects 6 months actual and 2 months accrual. Interest earned year-to-date is $4,547.17. Our intergovernmental transfers in total $746,351.98 and include the special assessment activity year-to-date of $58,851.98 and proceeds from the sale of the property at the southeast corner of Highway 80 and Collins Road of $687,500. We had a gain on the sale of that asset at $149,430.78, and we'll go down a little bit here to the end of the page to kind of go over that. The proceeds from the sale of that property was $1,673,861.56, our original purchase price, and this is the what we paid for the property was $1,375,000. That was split between 4A and 4B. So upon the sale of the property, 4A and 4B both received the original investment back of $687,500, and both had a gain on the sale of the property of $149,430.78 each. Our year-to-date expenses total $105,437.21. Our month-to-date expenses included our routine payroll. We had some legal services, some membership dues, and conference registration for the Southern Economic Development, and some reimbursement for some mileage for the TML Grant Writing Conference that was held in San Antonio. That brings our year-to-date net revenues to $1,054,230.74, bringing your total unassigned fund balance as of 5/31 to $2,210,640.54.
Tracy, you know that Manor Hotel's haunted, right?
Okay, so I really had a ghost experience, but I'm sure that, like, my husband just was freaking out. Serious. I'm telling you, I heard stories and I read the stories, and then all of a sudden that night I laid in my bed and I could feel the pillow move and I could feel this presence, and then all of a sudden I could smell this cigar smoky smell, and I was freaking out. I didn't want to open my eyes, and then after that I didn't even want to go back to the hotel.
I believe it.
So I don't know that I believe in ghosts, but that moment I had a moment.
Wow.
What did I miss?
I don't know.
The Manor Hotel
My mind was
by the
elsewhere.
Alamo?
Huh?
The Manor Hotel by the Alamo?
Oh, that.
I like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Hope you like ghosts.
I like that
It's
hotel.
full.
Like the bar. Not
Right.
hotel.
Exactly.
All right. Any questions on the May financials? And again, Treasurer Bachniak said everything looked good. And if there's not, I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you, Attorney.
I'll make a motion to approve the May financials as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Weeks and a second from Mr. Cash to approve the May 2018 financials as reported. All in favor, please raise your right hand, and passes unanimously. Move on to number 2, discuss and consider 2018-19 budget.
Okay, we provided what's really just a first look at budget. It's of course open for discussion. Any recommendations that the board has that you would like for us to make, we'll certainly make. This is just a beginning look. We do have a budget retreat that is coming up on Friday, June the 22nd. And so we were really just looking to have some documents together that we could kind of start the budget discussions. So I'm just going to go over what we've kind of put together for 2018-19.
And Mr. Bachniak and myself went over the budget with Tracy, met with Tracy. And then once we kind of finalized what we thought, then Tracy and I met with Mr. Daniels.
So we've got for special assessments, of course, we'll be entering our year 3 for payments, and we have that budgeted at $54,767. Revenue, we are taking a conservative 3% increase from current year, so that will put our sales tax receipts at $363,848. So we have total revenues budgeted for next year at $418,615. I'm sorry, I didn't include sales interest. So total revenues budgeted for next year are $424,115. Labor and benefits, you're seeing a slight increase. Just for the purposes of putting together the budget, we did include a 3% COLA increase. That has not been discussed and that has not been determined at this point. So you are seeing a slight increase in payroll. That could, of course, change as we go through the process. Administrative services, that is a line item that we put in there on the, should the EDC director decide that she needs some sort of administrative assistance. We've got that budgeted at $10,000. That's also a line item that the 4B has as well and has budgeted at that same $10,000. Promotional services is budgeted at $36,385, and that is set at, we learned that it has to be equal to or less than 10% of what we show for sales tax receipts. General office supplies, we lowered from $1,000 to $500. The dues, subscriptions, and memberships, we brought from $15,000 down to $3,000, and that was taking into consideration, Tracy did, those organizations that we are members, and any dues that we may have coming up in 2018-19. The project costs that we had associated with the property at Highway 80 Collins Road, of course, since that property's been sold now, we've taken that down. We had made a mid-year budget adjustment anyway to take that $75,000 out, and so of course we won't have any money budgeted for that line item for next year. Legal services stay the same at $7,500. Our bond payment is a set amount, and that will be $34,998. Yes, $998. That is for a contribution to the bond payment for the bridge. On-site training expense remains the same at $7,500. The local business EDC luncheon, we did have that. This is going to be a new item, and we've got it budgeted at $10,000. I'm going to let Tracy talk a little bit about what she has in that particular, what the thought process was for that $10,000.
So we added that one in, and that was just to account for the quarterly meetings, like the Realtor Roundtable we just did. And then when we've talked about doing the BRE annual luncheon or dinner event, then that'll account for that to be able to get the awards and put on the event. So that's kind of to break it out a little bit so we know where our money's going to and what events and stuff that we're looking at spending.
We got miscellaneous expense items that remains the same at $2,000. The transfer out to the general fund remains the same at $12,000. Town beautification, we have taken to $100,000 for 18-19. We did not have anything budgeted in the current year, and that is for some projects that 4A has been discussing, the gateway signage and some beautification projects. We have, under the capital improvements, we have infrastructure improvements along Highway 80 budgeted at $100,000. We have incentives and a facade grant program budgeted under incentives for $125,000, and we have our chamber support at $1,000. That is going to bring your total expenses for 2018-19 to $2,533, which is going to give us a net expense of $78,418. And that would bring your fund balance to $1,162,310. But let me say that this calculation on fund balances, where your ending fund balance would be as of 18-19 at the end of the year, was done prior to the sale of the property and bringing in that money. So you are actually going to end up, with a much healthier fund balance, at the end of 2018-19 based on that sale. And of course, this is, you don't have to approve it today. It's open for discussion. It again was just a starting point for us to have something that we could share with the council.
And if you look at page 9, it kind of gives you a little bit of summary of the things that were changed. The only change I don't see on it at this time is the EDC director salary. So that's something that'll come later.
Any changes made to the labor and benefits? Yes. Like I say, that is something that at this point hasn't even been discussed. We just wanted to, we usually include something in there for the cost of living increase, and so we did that across all departments and all funds, for the town.
When do we need to approve this? By?
When do we need to approve it, he was asking.
Well, if you, you could approve it, the preliminary budget tonight. If you had any other changes or questions, we can definitely look at that. It is going before council June. They already have a copy of this, but it's not saying that it's set in stone. It was just something that they need to get to council so they can start reviewing it before the budget retreat on the 22nd. So council will be looking at this more thoroughly the 22nd and 23rd of this month.
So we can approve the preliminary budget or don't have to, or what do you suggest?
If you don't have any changes or corrections, I would recommend it. Go ahead and approve the preliminary budget.
Okay.
Paul, you said Paul looked over this and everything?
Yes. Yeah, and Paul and I met with Tracy. Like I said, if you look at page 9, those are some of the things that we adjusted when the three of us met, and then after that, Tracy and I met with Charles to kind of go over it with him as well. And he said it looked good too.
Do you see anything that stands out or questions you have on it?
No, I'm good. I'd be happy to approve it.
Make a motion.
All right. The 2018-19
Preliminary, yes, sir.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the 2018-19 preliminary budget as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion for Mr. Cash and a second for Mr. Miracle to approve the 2018-19 preliminary budget as presented. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, passes unanimously. Move on to item number 3, and we're not going to discuss item number 3 tonight. Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank y'all. Have a good evening.
Two.
that correct? Discuss and consider the remainder track and screen walls with Provident, is that gonna be tabled?
Yeah, it'll be tabled till next time they can get everything together to come look. It's gone before 4B as well. They wanted to kind of get input from the boards. They have some samples on some screen walls and then just get an idea of what the thought process would be on their landscaping and having the trees on that property, what the location would look like. Just had a conversation with Robert Blackburn this morning about trees and locations and, or it might have been yesterday morning. We talked about the placement of the trees versus he'd rather not see any trees on there. So now we're going through that process of just, if we put the trees on there, it needs more maintenance for them to be able to weed eat around all of them as opposed to one big swoop of stuff. So, but according to our thoughts and plans and everything that we need with regulations for landscaping, they're required to put them in. It's possible they could pay money in lieu of, but yes, it'll be tabled until further notice. And that, honestly, if y'all don't care one way or the other, you can just go before one board or can have y'all the same night as 4B to not have to.
That was gonna be my question. Why are we considering that? What role do we play in how
They're
they
just
finish
wanting
out
to kind of
that?
get input and be a partner and see what would be some ideas and thoughts. Because when we originally had the layout, especially when we're talking about the trees, when we originally had the layout of the trees, it was with the trail system in there. And then the last picture that they did, the trees were just sporadically placed to where if we were to ever go back in there and put a trail system in, it wouldn't be conducive to be able to do that. So then it became, well, okay, do we put it back and create it as a second buffer, which originally that was the thought process, was those trees would create a second buffer behind the screen wall for Stone Canyon. So they're just wanting to kind of get some guidance and what we think would look better in that area.
Because we still own that tract, that strip of land.
The
correct?
remainder.
Okay, I was just curious what our role was in that decision. Okay,
Just being
I'm with you.
good neighbors.
that's us.
All right, so that's gonna be tabled, so we'll move on to item number 4, review town code of ethics.
You'll see on the dais the current code of ethics. The charter review committee was going over the charter and noticed something in there about code of ethics. So they asked what the code of ethics was. They pulled up this document. I think the charter review committee is going to look at this, or somebody's going to look at this document to see if there's any changes that need to be made. So this was presented to council Monday night, 4B last night, just kind of a reminder of what the town's code of ethics are in regard to the town, council, and the boards and commissions. So it's just kind of a FYI document until further notice. And then once we see if there's a revised copy, that'll be the one that ultimately ends up being signed by everybody.
So if we have any input after we look at this document, we can certainly share that with you
Yes,
because
please.
the home charter committee is looking at it, the charter.
I could be mistaken who's looking at it, but I know somebody is going to review it. So yes, if you're looking through this and you have anything that you'd like to add, you'd like to see, please feel free to email me and we'll definitely pass those along to town manager.
What's the logic here? I mean, it's implied that we behave and represent the citizens of town when we do these things, right? What? Excuse me.
I think that, even from the International Economic Development Council, there's a whole economic development code of ethics. So I think it's just being able to state what is already should be known, so that there's never that, well, what about this, what about that? A good point that was brought up by 4B last night was, there's not really a social media content on the code of ethics. So updating it to more technology time, and what you should or shouldn't do when it comes to social media. I mean, I think it's a document that you can be able to read, sign it, say you've read it, you know what your expectations are, so there aren't any questions. Oh, no. Please let
it's a good question, honestly.
Do what?
I think it's a good question.
What was the
What's
question?
what's the purpose of it? Like I said, it's implied that you're gonna come up here and do what you think is in the best interest of the citizens of Sunnyvale, and you're gonna play by the rules that have been
This goes beyond,
enacted.
this goes beyond implication. This says that you pledged to do so.
How would you, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here. It just seems like sometimes things get cooked up that you have to scratch your head about.
That,
This being one of them.
Guess so.
I'm not sure if this is something that just Sunnyvale does. It's probably all
I'm
cities.
sure all cities do this and all towns do this.
Are you anti-ethics, or are you on the other side of this issue?
That's what I was wondering, devil's
Sometimes.
advocate for.
Yeah.
I mean, we already have rules and laws of the land that we're, required to adhere to, I don't know. Just seems a little redundant.
Just read it and sign it.
It's 18 pages.
Then just sign it.
Don't get me wrong, I understand that if you got a radical board member or council person or whatever, elected official,
President.
that needs to be held to task, I think there are other means of doing that, but I can see where this would be something that would fall into
Well, a prime example is if we would have had this a couple months ago, then we could have gone back and looked at it and say, hey, do you remember?
I thought I did have to sign this a couple of years ago. I'm kind of fresh to the board, but I remember having to.
You might have, but one of the questions that came up last night that I couldn't answer is who wrote it and when was this established?
I've never seen it.
I don't remember seeing it myself,
We all just
so it
started
might be
signing
fairly
false
new if neither one of us remember seeing it.
I mean, 9 years as an elected official, I never had to sign any code of ethics or anything like that, but this may be relatively new as well.
Well, and some of yours was school board, right? Not
Yes.
town, not town stuff.
Right, but I'm elected, so.
It's put more reporting to let you know what is happening.
But if
what's
it-
going on, what our
If it
code-
doesn't address social media, isn't it missing the point?
Well, that's one of the things that's gonna get brought up, that it possibly needs to add something with social media in there. So that's why this document is.
I mean, there's a media section, but there's not a social. By media, they're meaning,
Nobody's-
television,
Yeah.
reporters, yeah, the press.
Yeah. So, that's all for them,
Okay.
unless there's any more devil's advocate.
No, just the one troublemaker. Oh, did I say that?
Somebody's gotta do that. It'd be boring if we didn't have
You're
some
right, you're exactly right.
other views.
Just teasing.
No action or anything needs to be taken.
Are we streaming, by the way?
We could be, they could be in test mode, I don't know,
We've been
but
talking about ghosts on Facebook. Great.
Hey.
Well, thanks for the heads up.
yes, they did a test run Monday night, I'm not sure how far that went. Supposedly it'll start streaming on the 25th, so I will for sure know when our board meetings start getting, recorded, but they will start getting recorded.
Is that the camera?
Yes, sir.
It's not red, so.
So they're gonna automatically have it programmed to record our meetings. I'll try to see if she can set it right at the times of our meetings to not catch everything beforehand.
Okay. That's a good question. Under that category. I kind of forgot about the live streaming. Okay, well, we'll move on to item number 5 then. Discuss future agenda items and events.
So our next regular meeting is July 11th. Next town council meetings are June 25th and July 9th. And I just sent out an email to everybody regarding the June 25th meeting. We've been talking about Project Elite and
they keep coming up and they want to do something in Sunnyvale. So they're gonna come to the June 25th meeting to do a presentation. Just talked to him today to confirm that. So I would encourage board members to attend that meeting to be able to see that presentation, because it will come back up because they want a true public-private partnership if that were something we would do. There's also been another company that has come in wanting the exact same thing, and I talked with them on Friday.
Another baseball related?
Another sports athletic complex, yes.
Is this still being considered in the south end of town?
For this first one, I'm not sure what the specs and everything that this second one is looking at, so, but yes.
What are you allowed to tell us right now about the second?
I don't know anything.
Okay.
It was just I was very confused when the email came across, and I finally figured out the two were not related.
Interesting.
And so we have a meeting on Friday to start the initial discussions on what they're looking for. So if you can, on the 25th, attend that meeting. I'll keep you posted on the details of it. As kind of mentioned with the budget, so on June 21st, we're doing a council orientation, just kind of letting y'all know what's going on. We've got all departments will be given new council members an orientation of what their departments are, past years' accomplishments, concerns they see moving forward, kind of the areas of responsibility. It's mostly for the new council members, but all council members are invited to the orientation. And then on Friday and Saturday, all directors will be with council to go over the budget retreat
What time is the orientation?
at 2:30.
Okay. And
And then the council.
because of a possible quorum, is that open? Or, the orientation, is that an open meeting?
Yeah, it'll be publicized as a meeting, a regular meeting. Same thing with the budget retreat. It'll be held in Rockwall. If anybody's interested in attending on Friday, it's from noon to 5, and Saturday 8 to noon at the Rockwall Golf and Athletic Club. Sunnyfest, June 29th, 6 p.m. And then I have on here about a survey. The town is fixing on the 25th, also going to look at a town-wide survey. I'm going to talk to them a little bit further about the possibility of adding more economic development, because there's currently not anything with economic development on there. And then R2, 4B, having more parks stuff on there. So once I find out if we can get those things added, we may have to look at possibly doing our own.
Our own ED survey?
Mhm. And then next meeting, wanted to get something to y'all of the signage, the gateway signage for this meeting, but I had some engineering questions, and our new town engineer starts on Monday. So his name is Lyle something, goes by Robert though.
Do you know where he came from? What city?
Robert Garland. He's
Garland.
been with Garland for the last 12, 13
It's a little city north of
years.
I told Terry I won't be here in the July meeting,
Okay.
so.
Won't be here either, will you here?
It's the August meeting. I'll be missing. And I think as, those meetings get closer, we'll just make sure we have a quorum. Tracy and I kind of talked a little bit about the August meeting, and it might be time for us to have a joint meeting, or with 4B, or was that the November one we were talking about?
The November one, we will have to look at,
Yeah.
because
The-
the Business Expo is scheduled now for the second Tuesday.
The Sunnyvale Chamber of Business Expo, we wanted to move it to a Tuesday night. We think it would just be better than a Monday night, and the first Tuesday is election day. So we've worked with the school district to do it on the second Tuesday, November 13th. So it's down the road, but maybe around that time we would have
So
just.
I was talking that maybe depending on what's going on that time of year, maybe we just do one meeting
Both.
in the middle of November, December, just do the November, December, but that's still a ways out.
Yeah.
Any other items y'all would like to see?
Well, we talked earlier today about the sewer project. I'd like to see that on next month's agenda.
I have a question about Sunnyfest. We all to talk about that. Does the passing of any of the votes, you know, the referendum the other month, does that affect whether alcohol is allowed to be sold at Sunnyfest? Is alcohol allowed to be sold at Sunnyfest?
I would think it wouldn't, because parks are already no alcohol.
Generally, I understand. I didn't know if there were
And it's
there were
at the
exceptions
park,
made
right?
for like,
Not here, not yet.
got it.
Be
The
wild,
only
big.
thing the referendum did that just passed was allow the liquor sales in restaurants.
Okay.
So it doesn't have anything to do with the parks or anything like that. There are other towns where you can get a permit to be able to sell
Mhm.
and or drink in the parks, but I don't see that happening.
Got it. Okay.
Dry event.
Other questions?
And does anybody else see any future agenda items? And we might have some executive session items come July too, so.
Oh, yes, there'll be a couple that we'll look at. The wedding venue will come up, and then Sunnyvale Park Square will come up as well next month.
I'm curious, we can discuss any potential future agenda items right now. When is Mike Anderson going to come down here and give us an update on Sunnyvale Center?
I can talk to him about it.
Good.
That'd be great.
I've been here almost 2 years. I've never seen space, so it'd be excellent to have that happen.
Good point. I'm glad you remembered that, because yes, he's way overdue.
What about an update on the Collins Road expansion or TxDOT's plans?
good.
South Collins.
It's a good idea.
I've been told 20 months out, but if there's anything you know or you can find out, that'd be awesome.
And would
Yeah,
the
I'll-
north side be something you'd want to discuss too, or is that like way after the south side? I'm trying to remember.
No, so originally the south side was gonna be done before the north side,
Right.
and then it came that the north side was gonna be done before the south side, but now, I have no idea.
An update on both would be good.
Can we revisit or be brought up to date on the areas of town that are zoned for retail or general business? Just so we can more accurately focus on what to do there economic development wise. I know it's already in the zoning map, but maybe we could just get refreshed. Because I think there's some areas around here that are, the overlay is, considers that to be retail or something like that.
So you have the town center overlay that's right here, and that includes this northwest property here, and then, of course, the Daniels property across the street. As far as other retail, you basically have the Four Corners here, and you have a few properties along 80 going east, and then you have a few properties on Beltline. The golf course just got sold contingent upon council approving, so all 60 acres is under contract as of last week.
Do we know anything about what the,
They're looking at commercial retail in the front, they're looking at residential, single lot family homes on the backside
so the golf course is going to be is gone at some point?
at some point.
Okay.
Can we put that on the agenda? Just like an update?
On the general business areas?
Well, I mean, that 60 acres as far as where it's gonna be.
I'll update you as soon as I know anything, but right now they haven't come forward with any official plans or anything, they haven't even come to a DRC meeting, it was just, I bought the property, here's what I'm looking at, but, you know, this is only gonna be contingent on.
They bought it subject to, right, approval? Okay.
And then there's another development on Beltline, it'll be a retail shopping strip, for Alice Shiralis, property on the, don't quote me on, it's on the side of the tire shop, before.
Is it where he's already, the one that they've already poured the parking lot and all that?
No.
Talking about where
So
the
there's
farmer
just, all
market
you
was?
see right
Where's
now
your-
are a bunch of trees. It's like the tire
Okay.
shop, something else, and then a whole bunch of trees.
Oh,
And that
where
property
the,
Where
was
the
a whole bunch
school
of
where
was.
trees.
the old, Well, they had the auction.
Yeah, the auction
Yes, that property, okay. The old church, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to be there, they torn it down. They used to have,
Church or
Random
school or
auctions
something there, yeah.
it was an old church, I think, but I think they torn the building down now.
Yeah.
It was an antique place for a little while, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
had,
that-
remember
Yeah,
Saturday
yeah,
night
yeah.
auctions and
Alright.
cars
Yeah.
were parked all up and down Beltline, yeah.
Yeah,
So we probably need to consider some of these things that Mr. Cash wants to see for August, since he won't be here in July.
yeah, that'd be fine. Maybe you'll know more about them too in some way.
You know, like the update on Collins North and South, the use map, or whatever you call that,
Zoning.
zoning map, thank you.
Yeah,
And then,
because
you
some
know,
of
and then
that-
if I won't be here unless we move it, which is fine, I can already get an update from you, so.
I know some of the Clay Road frontage is zoned there too, is general business or something, so. It would help us to kind of contemplate what we would be able to do or participate in, or at least plan for, knowing where those areas are. And I don't, I've slept since then, so.
I try. That's a lot of stuff. Thanks for everyone's input. It's great.
What was it, the Rails to Trails thing? Is there any play on that, or are we waiting on the next cycle for grant proposals?
So, Eric Weiss and I have been talking about that and just talked with the superintendent about the Safe Routes to School component as well. So we're gonna package that back up together and, re-present it.
We like that. I like it.
Yes. Smells baby.
Okay, is that it?
As far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Then we're going to recess into executive session pursuant to Chapter 551, Subchapter D of the Texas Governmental Code at 5:46 p.m. Go in the back, and I think I'm going to go ahead and get dessert before we go in the back. I'm going to have it now and not take any home and not tell anybody else.
Oh, that's how it goes, yeah.
Before you.
Yeah.
We're going to reconvene into open session, and there's no action necessary to be taken at 6:21 p.m. And with that being said, we'll also adjourn the meeting at 6:21 p.m. I got a squeaky chair.
Careful.